And for my money, the one that you want to keep an eye out for if you've never seen it is Hell's Kitchen. That's the show with Gordon Ramsay. Now, I know he's not known for his clean language, and it's a bit like having your priest say he prefers to watch The Walking Dead, which actually I did say on Easter. It's a good show. But anyway, Gordon Ramsay is misunderstood. The shows he does always try to play up his volatile anger, his berating attitude, his bleeping expletives. But I'm here to tell you it's all a ruse. From his show Kitchen Nightmares to Master Chef to his latest show, which is really good, it's called 24 Hours to Hell and Back. Gordon Ramsay is actually acutely aware of the human dynamics that are involved in cooking and in restaurant propriety. Gordon Ramsay seeks to weed out the passionate ones from the ones who just don't care. Now, he's very, very demanding, but he does really care. So on Hell's Kitchen, there are two teams, blue and red. They compete and they whittle themselves down to one winner who becomes a head chef at a major restaurant. And it never fails each season, and it's coming up on its 18th season this month. There's always one person who is played to be the villain because they are relentless. Most recently, it was a woman, and her name was Elise. In fact, she's been on 2 seasons because she was a return all-star. And Elise, unfortunately, is played out to be a vixen because she is so persistent and passionate. And even when she made mistakes or wasn't quite as talented as the others, every time she was up for elimination, Gordon Ramsay always saved her because he loved that spark of energy, that passion, and her persistence. And persistence, the big word. There's that quality that's in someone, which was put to political effect 18 months ago when Senator Elizabeth Warren famously was interrupted while delivering a speech. And Mitch McConnell called her, or said about her, nevertheless, she persisted. Now that became a rally cry for Democrats and the women's movement. But nevertheless, that phrase really did stick. And the reason I like the phrase is, forgetting politics, it might as well be the headline for this first part of Mark's gospel today. Nevertheless, she persisted. And it may have even have been Jesus' own thoughts as this very, very important woman made a gut-wrenching plea to him. She is called the Syrophoenician woman because that is where she comes from, an area that is Gentile, non-Jew, northeast of Palestine in modern-day Lebanon. And it's hard not to talk about this lesson and not wade into politics or even heresy. And here's what I mean. When we speak of the Syrophoenician woman, or as she's called in Matthew and Luke, the Canaanite woman, we are identifying her without the dignity of a name, only the mark of her ethnicity. She's an other. She's not like us, as the Jews would have thought in the first century. She's a Gentile. That's coded. If the story were told today, we would call it the Muslim woman, or maybe, yes, even the Mexican woman. Jesus and his disciples at this point in Mark's gospel have entered into the region where she lives. And yet, the description tells us basically the disciples are saying, who is she to push her way through the crowd and approach Jesus? How dare this woman be so relentless? But that's just the start of it. She does get Jesus' attention, and she begs for his help in exorcising a demon from her daughter. Jesus appears to be aware of what people think of a woman like this, a Syrophoenician woman of all things. The text is pretty clear, and man, talk about Gordon Ramsay. This is an expletive. She is a dog, a female dog. Do the math. Like a dirty stray dog hanging around the table looking for handouts. She's begging. And Jesus says remarkably, it's not fair to take the children's food and give it to the dogs. In this coded language, it's as if he's saying, the Jews are who I came for, not the scruff like you. It reeks of talk of second-class citizenship in the kingdom of heaven, and it's a dangerous passage when you misunderstand it and take it out of context. So, what do I mean when I talk about heresy? Well, first off, what does this say about God so far? That's basically seems to say that there's a favorite race, and then there's everyone else. Now, our liturgy and our belief system talks of ancient Israel as kind of heirs to the heavenly kingdom, the people God favored and from whom we Christians sprang from. But that's an inverse, that's a shadow side understanding of the reality of God's own persistent love for a people who will constantly disappoint him. Covenant after covenant, God worked with Israel because Israel needed the most work. Case in point, the Syrophoenician woman. She does not need any help in her belief. Now, it's the disciples all through Mark who don't understand who Jesus is or why he is even here on earth. This woman gets it. And she's not even in the target audience. So in one aspect, it's a comfort that reminds us that God does indeed love and care for all of us and that we are worthy of saving. But it can be nearly heretical when you tiptoe into these difficult waters of what exactly is Mark having Jesus say here? Is Jesus participating in racism by calling this woman a dog? If that is the case, then Jesus is supposedly without sin. Isn't he sinning here? Well, the woman's response saves everything when she says, "Sir, even the dogs eat the crumbs under the table of the children." She is embodying persistence and ready for Jesus' question. Perhaps, as I said to the children, perhaps she's heard something like it her whole life. And in this moment, the woman says, I may be a Gentile, I may be a dog in the world's eyes, but it's still worth it. And I still have nothing to lose from being persistent in seeking God's love and Jesus' healing. It's so worth it, I'd rather be on the floor under the table gathering crumbs if it meant my daughter could be healed and I could be embraced by you. Jesus blesses her and heals the daughter. And if this is an instance of Jesus or God changing their minds, then it calls into question that classical account of God which says that God is unchangeable. There's that heresy I'm talking about. This is a tantalizing strand of theology that also says that our desire, our persistence, can affect a change in God's mind. Now, it seems to me certainly viable from that point of view when you read this lesson. And it's another reminder that Scripture is often, no, always, in conflict with itself. It's a dialogue. And many think that to suggest that God's mind can be changed is heresy. I don't think it's heresy, and I'm waiting for the lightning to strike me any second. But also, I really do think you have to understand that what Jesus says is a bit of irony. Let me give you an example. When I get a text message from my mother, it usually says, "Please call me right now." She's actually doesn't even fill out the whole word please. She writes PLS. So I go, oh no, who died? Or what does she need? What's going on? Is she coming here? What's happening? And I check the text message and I call her back and she says, oh, I just wanted to talk. Tone is everything. And the tone that goes right over our heads sometimes is that Jesus may be being a bit ironic in what he says. He's probably telling this woman, why should I help you? Aren't you supposed to be treated like a dog? It's sarcastic, it's sassy. And Jesus, of course, knows the answer. It's an extreme example in a very difficult passage that we actually are gifted with today. Gifted because it resonates with how we feel about the other, those who are not like us, those who we treat inadvertently or advertently like dogs. It's a reminder that there is not only nowhere God will go to save us, but also no one who cannot also reach God in a quest to connect and feel that love. Persistence for us, for the women competing in Hell's Kitchen, and for those who seek even just the crumbs under the table. Persistence really does pay off. Amen.